My career stopped about 3 years ago. I have had some short-term jobs, but they were not exactly sort of career building sort of jobs. And my net worth has grown since then. This is not going to be a story about how to be a millionaire. You can see from the title, it's not. I have another video about how to be a millionaire. This is, you can check out the other video. This is a story about thinking about retirement in a different way. So the backstory, my last career role, I was working for a hedge fund in London, managing their offices all around the world. And the contract ended, and I was looking for jobs initially, but the job market in London was pretty bad. And after about a couple of years, I realized, hey, actually, I could retire to a Southeast Asian country and not have to work for the rest of my life. And I thought, why am I struggling in London? I mean, as much as I love London, the stress, the cost of living stress in London can be pretty intense. And so what I would like this video to do is to help you plan for your retirement. And it's actually really simple. You only need to figure out two things. So the first is your living expenses when you retire, housing, groceries, medical bills, and medical bills in countries where there's no free healthcare. If you're in the UK, at least NHS would somewhat take care of you. And you also need to think about entertainment and travel, right? Because when you retire, what are you going to do? You're going to spend money on hobbies. You don't want to be sitting at home watching telly all the time. Figure out. And that's when you can be flexible. You hear about people moving out of London, moving out of UK to somewhere else. And a lot of people move to Southeast Asia where the cost of living is a little bit more affordable. Get that number. Financial advisors will tell you you need 4% drawdown. I would debate against that. Like if you're quite good with investment, sometimes you can get away with 6%. But 4% is a very safe guideline for people who are not that good with investing. And on that note, I would strongly encourage you to watch my other videos on this channel so that you can start getting on the bandwagon of investing. Some of you somewhat jokingly say, I must be loaded, minted, rich. I'm doing okay. I mean, I can't fly by business class yet. So yeah, I'm not that rich in that regard, not like some other content creator. But I'm doing okay. So I can easily retire in more affordable Southeast Asian country. I don't have to worry about money in that sense. And some of you might ask about numbers. So I do have a rental property in Singapore. I've mentioned that in some of my other videos. That rental property is giving me £750 per month of rental income. This is net of mortgage. It still has about 8 years of mortgage left. So, I mean, that amount alone is quite easy to lead a very basic lifestyle in places like Bali. And I also have been investing and trading ever since I got my first salary when I was 23. So my results in the last few months, year to date, on a good month, I make about £9,000 for my investing and trading. On a not so good month, I lost about £2,000. So plus minus, I do make some money this year, which is not too bad. I mean, I have a couple of pretty good months, so yeah, quite happy about that. So how can you start if you would like to start? There are a couple of urban myth I would like to debunk when it comes to the FIRE movement. The FIRE is not a black and white thing. You know, you don't just wake up one day and realize that you're FIRE. It's a very gradual thing, especially the financial independence. You build your portfolio up and the portfolio either increase in value or you get dividend out of it. So you gradually build up your investment and trading income. And the key is to not let your expenses increase during this time. Keep your expenses low while still enjoying life, not being too excessive. Don't try to go to an Hermes shop and start buying bags. And you really build that up. And like I just mentioned about, what's the monthly expenses you need, and then use a 4% guideline, and you can pretty much work out how much money you need. I started investing when I was 23, when I got my first salary. Some of you might do the math and you go, huh, what? I mean, you've been investing since you're 23 and you're still not a millionaire in British pound term. Yeah, I'm not a good investor. I can tell you right now, I mean, there are other people who claim to be a much better investor than me. And I know there are, hedge funds. I used to work for a hedge fund, so I know the hedge fund results. They generate 30% a year, easy. Some of them double their money every single year. I don't. On my good year, I probably do 40%. So I'm an okay investor. But my point is not about whether you're a good or bad investor. Even if you're an average investor, investing really could speed up the process of you achieving financial independence. And on this note, I want to talk a little bit more about investing from my personal point of view. This is not a financial advice. This is just my personal opinion of what investing is all about. And I hope it will help you change your perception about investing. A lot of people, when they started talking about investing, they think about, oh, finance bros sitting in front of Bloomberg terminals, 8 monitors in front of them. Yeah, I mean, those are traders. A lot of people are not. In fact, Warren Buffett famously doesn't use an Excel spreadsheet. The joke is that whatever Warren Buffett is looking at needs an Excel spreadsheet is too complicated for him. But of course, he's diligent in reading financial report. He's very numerical for sure. He can do a lot of calculation in his head, and that certainly helps. But you don't have to be a finance bro with 8 monitors or 6 monitors in front of you. How I see investing is almost like a language. It's almost like a way of life, to the point where you can see a lot of investors, if they become financially independent through investing, usually they continue to invest. They almost never stop. Like if their mental capacity still allows it, they will invest till the day they die or till the day their brain doesn't function anymore. Because once you get into the hang of investing, it's actually really fun. And I'm not just talking about investing as in you have to read the financial report, you have to understand numbers, you have to understand things such as PE ratio and ROI and what's the market share and total addressable market and so on and so forth. I have met people who make investment decisions based on personality, based on what they think is the CEO's character. And they're pretty successful at doing that. A friend of mine, quite funny, he invested in NVIDIA, not because he's a gamer, he's not in the finance industry, he was an interior designer. A friend told him about NVIDIA about 15 years ago. And he said, yeah, he likes Jensen Hwang. He thinks that Jensen Hwang is a good guy. And he just bought NVIDIA shares and he's a millionaire now. And he started very late in his life. And there are people who invest and trade luxury watches, artwork. If this is something that you're passionate about and has an edge in, maybe this is something you could potentially consider. So investing is about finding a niche area of investing that you have an edge or you're passionate about. I have so many people asking me for investment advice. I never really like to give investment advice. And I always heavily caveat my investment advice because it's highly personal. And one time I remember when I was doing a workshop, somebody who is of Indian descent started asking me whether I could give him some investment advice. And I said, look, you would know India much better than me. I wish I know India. I don't. Use that to your advantage. Find an Indian company that is high growth that you can invest, and you easily beat anybody else in this room. So find something that is your niche. And the second point about investing is start small. Start with something that you can afford to lose. If it's 200 pounds, so be it. If it's 2,000 pounds, so be it. The reason why is because investing, in a way, is almost like cycling. You will fall down, you will make mistakes, unless you just want to do the safe thing of investing only in ETFs, or rather specifically the S&P 500 ETF. There will be times you lose money. There will be times when the market will drop 30% in one single month and you freaked out. And so the emotional control of investing is actually really important, which is why I said if you've never invested before, start with a small amount. That's almost like do it with trial wheels. So for me personally, I started investing since I got my first salary at 23, first professional salary at 23. And I've always make it a point to save about 30 to 50% of my take-home pay. The exceptions were when I started my second job, which wasn't that well paid. It was a job where I was selling furniture, super passionate about it. I just wanted to get into the industry, so I was happy to take a pay cut to do that job. But the salary was really low and I was struggling to save. So I saved maybe about 10% of my take-home pay at that time. And even then it was quite difficult. And as my salary started to grow, I just saved more and more and more. But 30% has always been the baseline. On days when my salary was a lot higher, I try to aim for 50%. And I don't care what my colleagues and the rest of my friends are buying. I will be the only one without a Louis Vuitton bag. In fact, I still don't own a Louis Vuitton bag, and I'm very proud to say that. So I hope this will change your perception about how you can plan for your own retirement. And I'm not asking people to move to Southeast Asia. Sometimes, sometimes you might not like the weather. Sometimes your family and friends are somewhere else and you can't be in a cheap location. But my point is, understand what's your number, do a 4% to 6% drawdown. So when I mean 4%, I'll give you a concrete example so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Let's say you need about £2,000 to survive every single month. Maybe your house is fully paid for, so the £2,000 is really just your day-to-day expenses and hobbies and travel. So that means you need £24,000 every single year. Let's round it up to £25,000. If we're using a 4% drawdown, let me just explain the 4% a little bit. So the 4% comes about is because they call it the risk-free rate tend to be at 4%, meaning if you just put it in a fixed deposit or buy government bonds, usually you get 4% back every single year. So the idea is you want to be able to spend that 4% without touching the initial investment. So the initial investment doesn't decrease at all. And hopefully it increases if you're good at investing. So at £25,000 every single year, 4%, so you multiply that by 25, it's because it's divided by 4%, so that's 25. So 25 times 25 is £625,000. So in that sense, you need £625,000 either in your SIP or ISA or ready cash, so that you can get the living expenses out from this £625,000 every single year. From this £625,000 of investment, and you get £25,000 every single year. Some people would argue that 4% is too conservative, especially if you're in places like America where everybody is obsessed about investing. You could even use 6% because you actively manage your investment. So at 6%, instead of £625,000, you only need about £415,000. So I would say, yeah, sure, it's not a small number, but it's a lot less than $1 million, right? Even at £625,000, it's still a lot less than $1 million. So see, I just show you how you can retire even without being a millionaire. And if you start early in your life, if you start saving, even better, if you start working when you're in university and start earning a bit of extra income, start saving when you're in your 20s. And I know a lot of people in their 20s, you're not earning a lot of money and you could only save a limited amount of money. Even if it's £50 a month, just don't discount that, because £50 can compound. It can make a big difference. What I would like you to do, even if you only have a small amount of money, is to start learning how to invest, like what I just mentioned just now. So that's how I managed to achieve lean FIRE before I'm 45. You can kind of work out the maths and start guessing how old I am. And you shall never ask a lady how old she is. So yeah. I hope you find this video useful. I would love to hear more about your investment journey or how you would like to start investing, or maybe even some questions you might have about investing and the FIRE movement. We'd love to hear from you. And also, if you find this useful, please click a like and a subscribe. And most importantly, if you know friends who are also thinking about retirement and the FIRE movement or investing, send this to him or her or them. Remember, you're the average of your 5 closest friends. So if all your friends are financially independent, chances are you will be financially independent too. So let's all do this together. Bye.